Hello, welcome to Unit 5, Lesson 9. Our target goal is I can review what I've learned in previous lessons by solving a variety of division problems involving whole numbers and decimal numbers. We're going to do this by reviewing concepts related to division and practicing solving numerical division problems, and by solving real-world problems requiring whole number and decimal division. First of all, I want you to take a look at page 223. They're going to start with having us divide mentally. Dividing mentally means doing the math in our heads. We're not going to write anything down except our answer. So they say use the fact that 1,715 divided by 35 equals 49. So I'm going to think about that in this manner. 1,715 divided by 35 is 49. So now take a look at these problems and see if you see a pattern. See if you can figure out how to divide each of them mentally. Okay, as I attack the first one, 17 and 1500ths divided by 35. I notice the digits in 17 and 1500ths are the same digits and in the same order as 1,715. I know that 17 and 1500ths is just 1,715 multiplied by 1/100th or divided by 100. So if I know 1,715 divided by 35 is 49, then I know that all I need to do is bring in my decimal, and I'm still going to have 49 here. So my quotient is 49/100ths. Number 2, again, I'm dividing by 35, so I don't have a decimal in my divisor. It doesn't matter if I have it in my quotient or in my dividend. Can bring up my decimal, and again, think of 1,715 divided by 35 is 49 with my 4 in the ones and my 9 in the tenths. Now, in number 3, we're dividing by 35/100ths. Well, I've learned I don't want to keep my I don't want to divide by a decimal. I'm going to make this a whole number by multiplying it by 100, or shifting the 3 and the 5, 2 digits left, or basically shifting the decimal 1, 2 places to the right. But to keep this an equivalent division problem, I have to multiply the 1,715 10,000ths by 100, meaning shifting each of these digits once to the left or twice to the left, or shifting the decimal point once, twice to the right. That puts my decimal point here. My 49 again goes over the 1 and the 5, and I have 49/100ths. Number 4, I don't mind dividing by 35. Again, my 49 is going to go over the 1 and the 5. But I need something in the ones. Well, something that gives me no value in the ones would be a 0. Hopefully you notice that was a comma and not a decimal point. So 17,150 divided by 35 is 490. Number 5, again, I have a decimal. So I'm going to scoot my decimal place once to the right. That's multiplying by 10. So then I have to scoot this decimal point once to the right, or these digits once to the left, by just attaching a 0. Now, again, my 49 goes over the 1 and the 5. But this time, those are the hundreds and tens. And I can just bring in a 0. 490 again. Again, I'm dividing by a decimal. So I'm going to multiply by 100 or shift my decimal point 2 places to the right. So then to shift this decimal 2 places to the right, or these digits 2 places to the left, I attach 2 zeros. 49 is going to go again over the 1 and the 5. But I need 2 more place values, so I have to attach 2 zeros. 4,900. Now I'm dividing, I have 1 decimal place, so I'm going to multiply by 10. That scooches my decimal ones to the right. That means I need to scooch this decimal ones to the right. My 4 and my 9 goes over the 1 and the 5, and I have 4 and 9/10. Multiply by 100 scooches my decimal twice to the right. To keep an equivalent division problem, I have to scoot this decimal twice to the right. That's multiplying it by 100. That puts my decimal here between the 1 and the 5. My 4 and my 9 go above the 1 and the 5. So I have 4 and 9/10. So that is using the fact that 1,715 divided by 35 is 49 to do all 8 of these problems mentally. Now, solve division problems. Divide. If both numbers are a whole number, give your answer as a whole number with a remainder. So that means when you have a problem like number 14, 395 divided by 7, they're both whole numbers, then you're going to give your remainder as a whole number. So you'd say like remainder 3. Any other ones, if we have a decimal number at all, then you're not. You're going to continue the decimal if you need to. Okay, here is 9 through 20. Take a good close look at them. And go ahead and complete them. When you're done completing them, take a look at my answers. Welcome back. So my divisor is a decimal, so I'm going to get rid of my decimal by multiplying by 10 and scooching it my decimal 1 place right, or my digit 1 place left. That means I have to multiply 54 by 10 to make an equivalent problem. Now 5 divided by 6, I can't. 54 divided by 6 is 9 with nothing left. So nothing divided by 6 would be nothing. It's 90. This divisor has 2 decimal places, so I'm going to multiply it by 100. That means to multiply the dividend by 100 to make an equivalent division problem. 7 divided by 8, I'm not going to do. 72 divided by 8 is 9 with nothing left over, so I can just attach 2 zeros. 5/10 has 1 decimal place, so I'm going to multiply it by 10. That scoots my decimal ones to the right. That means I have to multiply my dividend by 10, scooting that decimal once to the right, and puts it there. So that decimal point is gone. 4 would be none. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. I'm done. This divisor has 2 decimal places. Multiply it by 100. So then I have to multiply my dividend by 100. Puts my decimal point at the end of the 49. How many 7s in 49? There are 7 with nothing left over. So those were pretty much mental math ones for me. Number 13. Number 13, I have 2 decimal places. So I'm going to scoop my decimal 1, 2 to the right. That means multiplying by 100. So I have to multiply this by 100. Scoots this decimal to the right. And to be honest with you, I do prefer rewriting the problem. I end up having 34,500 divided by 5. Now I can do it a little more neatly. I don't have any 5s. I have 6 5s and 34. That gives me 30. With 4 left. 4 is less than 5, so I can bring down. 45 divided by 5 is 9. 9 times 5 is 45. I have nothing left. As I bring down my 0, nothing divided by 5 is going to give me nothing. So I have 690. So this is 690. 395 divided by 7. Okay, I have two whole numbers, so if I have a remainder, I will write it as a whole number. I am going to make my line a little bit thinner. There we go. There are no 7s in 3. 39 divided by 7 would be 5 7s. 5 7s would have used 35 of these. 5s are hard to make. And I would have 4 left over. 4 is less than 7, so I can bring down my 5. 45 divided by 7 is 6. 6 groups of 7 would have used 42 of these. And I have a remainder of 3. And they told me I can just write my remainder as the whole number 3. Number 15. Wow. 3 decimal places means to multiply by 10, 100, 1,000. So I have to multiply my dividend by 10, 100, 1. Oh, I don't know why it did that on me. $1,000 means to attach another 0. So again, I'm going to rewrite that as 41,850 divided by 45. Oh, I hope I have enough room here. All right. There aren't any 45s and 4. Don't have any 45s and 41. How many 45s in 418? Well, 50, there would be 8. There would be 8 50s in 418. So I think there's going to be 9. I'm going to just estimate that there's 9. I'm going to adjust right away on the fly. 9 multiplied by 45. Well, 10 times 45 is 450. And 450 subtract 45 would be 405. I think I made a good choice. When I subtract, I have 13 left. Excellent. 13 is less than 45. Now I can bring down my 5. 135 divided by 45. Well, I think of it as 50. There's 2 5s in 13. But I know 2 45s is 90. So I can get 3. 3 45s I know is 135 because of using angles. And I have nothing left over. Now I do have a 0 to bring down. And I do need something in my 1s, so I'm going to put a 0. So I get 930. $4,009 divided by 42. Don't have to do anything with my decimals. Don't have any. Oh, I almost have one. Now, I know there's 10 4s in 400, but I can't have 10 here, so I'm going to go with 9. I'm going to adjust it down to 9. 9 42s. Well, 10 42s is 420. subtract one of those 42s would be, subtract the 20 would be 400. Subtract another 20 would be 380. Subtract 2 would be 378. Using my number talk skills. 400 subtract 378. Well, if I do the same change and think 399 subtract 377, that would leave me with 22. 22 is less than 42, so I can bring down my 9. Now, how many 4s in 22 would be 5? So there's about 5. 5 42s would be 410 or 210, sorry. Leaves me with 19. And this was a whole number divided by a whole number, so I get to just use that as a remainder. Number 17. I have 2 decimal places in my divisor, so I'm going to multiply it by 10, 100. That moves my decimal after it. Now I have to multiply 98 and 8/10 by 10, 100. Puts my decimal here. Whoops, didn't need to do that. Mess me up again, because they want me to use a different color probably. All right. There are, so I'm going to cross that one out just to say it's gone. That will help me remember. And I'm going to put one there so I remember it's there. How many 2s in 9? There would be 4. 4 2s would give me 8. And I would have 1 left over. Bring down my 8. How many 2s in 8 would be 9? That's 18. That means I used them all, so I didn't have any left over. Bring down my 8. How many 2s in 8? There's 4. 4 2s would have used all 8 of them. Nothing left over. But I need something in my 1s. Even though I have 0 1s, I can't make any groups. I need to write that. 0, 2, groups of 2 would be 0. Now I have nothing left. And I'm done. 980 divided by 6. There's 1 6 in 9. 1 6 uses 6 of them. I have 3 left. Bring down my 8. 38 divided by 6. I could use 6 groups of 6. 6 groups of 6 are 36. I have 2 left. Bring down my 0. How many 6s could I get out of 20? I could take out 3 6s, and 3 6s would be taking 18 out. And I would have 2 left that didn't fit in. Since I have 2 whole numbers, it's a sorry. That's a remainder of 2. 19. I have 2 decimal places, so I'm going to multiply it by 10, 100 to move my decimal here. multiply 117 by 100, takes me to there. No 4s in 1. 2 4s in 11. 2 4s are 8. A lot of these 8s, they're almost impossible to draw with this. Leaves me with 3. Bring down my 7. There's 9 4s in 37, because 9 4s is 36. I have 1 remaining that didn't get taken out. Bring down my 0. How many 4s in 10? There's 2 4s in 10. 2 4s would have used 8 of them. And I have 2 left. And bring down my 0. 20 divided by 4 is 5. 5 groups of 4 would have used all 20 of them. And I have nothing left over. Finally, number 20, I have 3 decimal places. So I'm going to multiply by 10, 100, 1,000. And then I'm going to multiply my dividend by 10, 100, 1,000. That leaves me with 64,881 divided by 81. And I definitely would rewrite that. Wow, that's a long one. Let's hope we have room to do that all on here. Can't take 81s out of 6. Can't make groups of 81 in 64. So 648. Well, I know there are how many? Thinking of 80. How many 8s in 64 are 8? So I'm hopeful it's 8. A little nervous about that. 8 multiplied by 81. Well, 8 multiplied by 80 is 640. 8 multiplied by 1 is 8. So I have 648. It's exactly right. I got lucky, I think. And that leaves me with nothing left. Now I can bring down this 8. Definitely there aren't any 81s in 8. 0 81s would be 0 that I've used. So I still have 8 left. Now bring down the 1. And I don't need to estimate that one. If I have 81, I put it into one group of 81, which uses 81. And I have nothing left over. So that's that page. My finger's sore from drawing. Page 224. Sorry about that. So on page 224, don't worry about this 23. Actually, let's take a look at number 23 once. So number 3, Jacob made $507 this year. If he makes the same amount monthly, how much money did he make each month? So that tells me that I have 507 this year divided by 12. So when I do that, 507 divided by 12, I'm going to just draw it out, I think. $507 divided by 12. There aren't any 12s in 5. There are 4 12s in 50. Four 12s would be 48. And I would still have 2 left. Bring down my 7. And how many 12s in 27? Well, I know there's 2, which makes 24. And I have 3 left. Well, since it's $3 left, he can make sense. So I would put in my decimal and attach a 0. And then just bring down the decimal 0. How many 12s in 30 tenths? Would be 2 again. Gives me 24 again. But it's tenths, so 24 tenths needs a decimal there. I'm left with 6 tenths. So I'm going to attach another 0 for my hundredths. And that makes 60 hundredths. If I had 60 cents and I was going to put it into 12 groups, they would have 5 in each group, because 5 multiplied by 12 is 60. So 5 hundredths multiplied by 12 is 60 hundredths. Leaves me with 0. Now, one thing I want you to do, I'm going to get rid of that, is now see if my answer is reasonable. So what I did is this. To see if my answer was reasonable, here was my division. I thought, all right, dividing by 12 is pretty easy, but 507 isn't very easy to divide by 12. I thought, what is 507 close to that's easy to divide by 12? So I looked at the 50 part and said, hey, that's close to 48. So I changed 507 to a friendly number, 480, divided by 12, because that I can do in my head is 40. And since 42 and 25 hundredths is close to 40, or you could even think, well, 12 is not that easy for me to divide by. So if I think of 12 as 10, what's 507 close to that's easy to divide by 10? In a way, I could have even kept it just 507, right? Because that would be just scooching my decimal. Or 500 divided by 10 is 50. And 42 and 5 should be 42 and 25 hundredths is close to 50. So my answer is $42.25. And my answer is reasonable because of this. So solve each problem, then check that your answer is reasonable. Again, to check if your answer is reasonable, first think of your divisor. What can I make my divisor that's easy to divide by? For me, 12 was easy to divide by. Some of you, maybe 10 would have been just as easy, would have been even easier. But remember, you have to stay close. Now, what is 507 close to that's divisible by 12? 480. How did I do that? I just thought of the 50 part. Well, 50 is close to 48. And then I just attached a 0 because of using what we just talked about on the previous page. All right. So go ahead and solve these and then check that your answer is reasonable. Here's 21 and 22. Pause it and do those. There's 24, 25, and 26. Pause it and do those. And finally, there's the check for understanding. Pause it and do that. Now that you're done, let's take a look at them. Clark is having a party. He has 196 chairs and wants to put 8 chairs at each table. How many chairs will be left over? So he has 196 chairs and he's putting 8 around each table. So I would have 24 tables surrounded with 8 chairs with a remainder of 4. Well, that 4 is what's left of my 196 chairs. Those are the chairs left over. So for my answer, I put 4 chairs. Now let's check and see if it's reasonable. On this one, I thought, hey, dividing by 8 is definitely easy. But when I looked at 19, well, 19 is close to 16. So I went 160 divided by 8 is 20. But the next one up, the next multiple of 8 up from 19 is 24. So I thought 240 divided by 8 is 30. So using the two of them, I know that 24 remainder 4 is between 30 and 40. So 24 remainder 4 is reasonable. So my remainder 4 is reasonable. 22. Liam needs to buy 640 eggs for soccer breakfast. If eggs come in cartons of 18, how many cartons should he buy? So I'm going to take the 640 that he needs, divided by 18, and I got 35 with a remainder of 10. Now I have to think of my remainder. 10 is what's left of the 640, which are eggs that he needs for breakfast. That means that 35 cartons won't be enough. He needs 10 more eggs. Can't buy them in 10. He's got to buy them as 18. He needs 1 more carton. So my answer is 36 cartons. Let's check to see if that is reasonable. Well, 18 is not super easy for me to divide by, so I thought of it as 20. And then, wow, 64 divided by 2 is pretty easy. So I just kept it 640 and got 32. Because I could just think 64 divided by 2 is 32. And 35 remainder 10 is close to 32. So yes, my answer is reasonable. 23 we already did. 24. Joanna made a rectangular sign that the area of the sign is 7 square meters and its length is 4 meters. What is the width of the sign? As you know, whenever I have area, I'm going to draw my rectangle. I have 7 square meters and a length of 4 meters. I want to know what multiplied by 4 equals 7, or 7 divided by 4. So as I did my 7 divided by 4, I found out I had a remainder of 3. Well, metric measurements, we go into decimals, so I put in my decimal and attached a 0 and brought it down. 30 tenths divided by 4 were 7. 7 tenths multiplied by 4 is 2 and 8 tenths. I had 2 tenths left over, so I attached another 0 and brought it down, and did 20 hundredths divided by 4 was 5 hundredths. 5 multiplied by 4 is 20, so 5 hundredths multiplied by 4 is 20 hundredths with 0 left over. So I came up with an answer of 1 and 75 hundredths meters. So now I have to see if my answer is reasonable. Well, 4 is very easy to divide by. 7 is close to 8, which is divisible by 4 to get 2. My 1 and 75 hundredths is close to 2, so my answer is reasonable. 25. Lakeisha and Raj went to an electronics store. Lakeisha bought a television for $358.40. This is 28 times as much as Raj spent on a new video game. How much did Raj's video game cost? So I'm going to say that Raj's game times 28 equals $358.40. So I'm going to take the $358.40 and divide by 28. And when I did, this is what I got. I got 12 and 80 cents, or $12.80, I should say. Now, because these are made up stories, I don't know if that's reasonable necessarily or not, but is my division reasonable? Well, dividing by 28 is not easy for me to do mentally, so I've changed it to 30 because then I'm really dividing by 3. Then I looked at the first two digits in 358 and thought 35 is close to 36, which is divisible by 3. So I made it 358, 360, because 36 divided by 3 is 12. 360 divided by 30 is also 12. And my 12 and 8/10 is very close to 12. So yes, my answer is reasonable. 26. Kyle spent $27.28 on cookies for a party. Each cookie cost 44 cents, or 44 hundredths of a dollar. How many cookies did Kyle buy? I'm not going to use the 44 hundredths of a dollar, but I could go $27.48 divided by 44 hundredths, but then I would just multiply by 100 to make it 44, multiply by 100 to make it 2,728. So when I did 2,728 divided by 44, I didn't have any 44s in the first two. I had 6 44s in 272. That left me with 8. Then I had 2 44s in 88. So I had nothing left. So that told me he bought 62 cookies. Now let's see if it was reasonable. I said, hey, dividing by 44 is real similar to dividing by 40. 27 is close to 28, so 2,800 or 2,800 divided by 40, which is the same as 280 divided by 4, which is 60. And 62 is close to 60, so 62 is reasonable. Check understanding. What expression could you use to check to see if your answer to 52 divided by 43 hundredths was reasonable? Now, an expression, remember, expresses a value. It's basically an equation without an equal sign or a variable. This is an expression right here, 52 divided by 43. Well, to check it, first of all, I would think of it as 5/10 into 50, or then think 500 divided by 5. Now, you can use any other expression that uses numbers close to 52, and this should say 43 hundredths, that are easy to divide mentally for you. All right? 43 hundredths isn't easy for me to divide by, but 4 or 5/10 is, or just plain 5. So think of this as a 5 and multiply it by 10. Then think of this as 50 and multiply it by 10. Either way, it gives me 100. All right. Thank you for viewing the video. Please have a great day.